Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf.
With that, we bring in from the York Daily Record, Frank Bodani. Frank, welcome. Happy holidays. So great to hear you.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Great to talk some football with you here.
Absolutely.
We need to do that and getting ready for the bowl game and everything else. All the bowl games, right?
Yeah, all of them, because everything starts. Yeah, Friday it starts, and then 2 weeks from Saturday it's Penn State and Arkansas in the Outback Bowl. It's been interesting. We know how the season finished, and then we know that Brent Pry, like the inevitable was that Brent Pry was going to get a head coaching job someplace. I felt like Penn State avoided the inevitable for a couple of years. So now it's when the inevitable happens, how do you react to it? So when you look at James' long-term contract stability at the top, Sean Clifford coming back and what it can mean for the young quarterbacks that he's there, and hiring Manny Diaz with this recruiting class, what kind of 10-day period has Penn State had since the season ended?
Dang, Steve, it's just as busy for us as almost more than a game week.
Yeah.
Just doesn't end here. But you know what? The key to me is that you react and strike quickly, because that's probably how you're going to get the best options to fill out your staff, to help your team move forward. And that's what James has done. I mean, he has a track record for doing that. This isn't anything new. But here's the other key is that they kept Anthony Poindexter, it appears. So
yes,
that, to me, it's almost as if, hey, Manny Diaz is a big name, and that's like, you could say that's his biggest hire in a way. I mean, biggest splash hire. But it kind of goes in coordination to me with Poindexter, who could have left to be a head coach himself, was close to doing it at least, it seemed like. But to keep him on for another year, I mean, we saw the work he did in year one. That combination to me really stands out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You see the development of Jaden Reed. You see the development of Keaton Ellis moving over to safety, and Jair Brown's development. I thought I thought Dex played a huge role in that. Yeah,
and it's not a position in the past that Penn State has necessarily flourished to this level, to have two guys that have done so well at the same time. So and these are junior college transfers. I mean, guys who might have had some upside, but no guarantees. And to have them play the way they did, I think Jair, if he comes back for another year and follows Brisker's kind of mold, so to speak, right. I mean, he's on the verge to me of being a big-time playmaker. His hand, it's just always around the ball. I mean, that's great prognosis for next year if he can come back and, just finalize some things there.
Well, Sean Clifford is coming back. What does it mean for the 2022 team? But also, what can it mean for the young quarterbacks to be in a room with somebody that's been around the block that is willing to share information the way Sean does?
Would mean everything. Who's more experienced coming back as a quarterback in the country than Sean? I can't imagine there is anybody. And he's had, and not just that he's been a starter, but that he's had to go through an uneven time in his career, which I think can make you a much better teacher. I think it's not been all easy for him, which he's been able to push through that, and he shows not just his loyalty, but, his willingness to lead this team going forward to something better. And these young guys, Penn State goes from one of the more inexperienced quarterback rooms in the country without Sean to, wow, they don't need to go to the transfer portal for anything. They have a guy. I mean, I don't think you can emphasize more. This is a great situation for Penn State. I don't know if all the fans would see through to all the benefits of this, but I think if Sean can stay healthy, first of all, there's no reason why he can't have a year similar to Kenny Pickett. I mean, I keep seeing that in my mind. He's right there. His team is close, invaluable for two big-time prospects to be able to learn from him.
See, I look at exactly what you talked about, which I think is very fair. But I look at, for example, C.J. Stroud. All right, didn't have to play right away. He had Justin Fields in front of him. He was able to get himself into the position. Bryce Young, he didn't have to play right away. Mac Jones was there, just like Mac didn't have to play right away until Tua got hurt. And you can go through the long list of guys. There's so many quarterbacks across the country where he's a freshman. He's not a freshman. Quote, the guy's a redshirt freshman. It makes a big difference. I think the ability where there's no pressure on you for it to be go time, and you've got a guy you can pull aside and say, okay, Sean, tell me, what did you see out there and why did you make that decision?
Yeah, I like the room even without Sean in a way, but Christian Veilleux's only played one half of one college game.
Exactly, yeah.
No matter what he did.
And did a great job to his credit. And who was the first guy who kept talking to him on the sideline when he came off the field?
Right. And people also got to understand, look at the Penn State schedule the first half of next year. I mean, one of the tougher opening 6-game schedules I would think in the country. Kind of nice to have the security of your senior quarterback there to lead it.
No, I absolutely agree with that. All right, so now Manny Diaz comes in, and we talked about Anthony Poindexter coming back. Manny has a great reputation as a DC along the way, and a lot like Brent, he's aggressive along the way. Mm-hmm. When you've heard that hire, what ran through your mind?
Well, the name recognition and what he brings. I mean, this is somebody that kids are going to know. I mean, he was just the head coach at the U. I mean, people know who he is, so you don't have to look up go searching through, the internet for his resume. You kind of know. And I think Penn State is now, James, how many head coaches does he now have in the game from his staff? That says a lot right there. Mm-hmm. But then being able to bring in a guy who is just the head coach for 3 years at a place like Miami that has his reputation. And it's similar. Penn State has been known for getting to the quarterback. There's in some ways you might think they need to ratchet that up in some regards the last year or so, but for other reasons. But Manny's that type of guy. Look at his track record of his team's tackles for losses and sacks, and that comes right at you. That's right what Penn State has been doing for, the last 10 years, easily being one of the teams always leading the country or close to leading in the top 10 and getting to the quarterback, and that's their style. So this fits. This works.
There's another element to it as well. Manny's been sitting in that head coaching job chair, which is a different chair than any other chair you're going to sit in. Okay. James can now talk to somebody on the staff that understands the life of the CEO part of it, that, he can bounce things off of because they've sat in the same chair.
Right. And you know what? This is the kind of hire that Alabama's making, that Ohio State makes.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
We're not just throwing it out there because they make them. They make them and they're successful. Okay, this is part of their success. Who did Alabama? They need an offensive coordinator. Let's go just get Bill O'Brien.
Right. Yeah.
This is whether you agree or like it or not, this is what college football and success in college football is. This is part of being able to do this. This is part of it, is you develop guys that go to become head coaches, even if they're only there a few years. And you bring in guys that are at the top of their game, and even if Manny is only there for a couple of years, that's what you got to do, and that's what the big boys are doing, and that's what Penn State is doing.
National Signing Day, there'll be some talk about when to do it, but it's going to be this time around. Obviously it's the 15th. It's tomorrow. Obviously, how high is the interest in your area? Not because it's just Penn State, but because there's a quarterback in your area that has ached for years to come here. Yeah,
I don't know if Penn State, if York County, our league, York and Adams County, has ever had a scholarship quarterback at Penn State, ever. So Bo Pribula is a big deal. And that just takes it to another level because, there's a lot of Penn State fans down here anyway because have a branch campus here, and it's Pennsylvania. But yeah, that is a different level, and I think this, to me, is James' you could say it's his most important recruiting class at Penn State. I think it might have you could argue it's his best. Certainly has probably the most star power. I mean, Nick Singleton, Gatorade Player of the Year in the country, Drew Allar, the number one quarterback, and then there's Bo Prabula, who would be getting more attention in other years, right? But don't sleep on the kid. The intangibles, and you always hear it, but guys like Zach Mills, Trace McSorley, that's kind of that's the mold here, I think.
Yeah, always interesting. Have you done anything with all this action going on? Have you really had a chance to do anything about Arkansas yet?
Well, I know they lost their best player, receiver's not playing in the game.
That's 40% of their pass offense is Traylon Burks. Yep.
Right. Their quarterback, I think, looking at his production and how he's done it is kind of startling. I mean, the kid is big, and he's great passing numbers, but his running numbers. Yeah. Penn State hasn't played. Penn State's defense has not dealt with a quarterback quite like Arkansas's QB this season. So that's a unique challenge in the way they run the ball with, three other running backs. So that's a unique challenge. And you got to know, here's the other thing. Arkansas is going to be coming out, to me, wanting to win this game. I think they're going to come out like Kentucky was 3 years ago. That's going to be the type of challenge that Penn State's going to have to meet, is that you're going to be playing a team that wants this game badly, even without their star receiver. So Penn State's going to have to match that intensity of the day. And
by the way, just so everyone understands, Bumper Pool, who is by the way, does not start. Right? Bumper Pool does not start. But that actually is his given name. So just
great.
Bumper.
And their linebackers are very productive with huge numbers. So
yeah, Grant Morgan was named the Burlsworth Trophy winner. The one that Matt McGloin won is the guy that's gone from a former walk-on to a scholarship player, and he won that award for them. Morgan, 31, is a really good player, but then there's always Bumper Pool.
Absolutely. Steve, how did Joe and Penn State never play Arkansas? That's my other biggest question.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I've never once heard the name come up. Like, for example, they had Auburn scheduled in 1983. They had them scheduled. They're going to come to Beaver Stadium, and that's why they ended up playing Brown, because Auburn backed out. Tennessee was supposed to come here twice in the 70s, backed out. Arkansas was in the Southwest Conference, and it never happened for whatever reason. I don't even think it ever came up. The only Arkansas game I've ever done in my career was an NCAA tournament game between Penn State and Arkansas.
Right. So never a chance in a bowl game.
No, never a chance in a bowl game. Just never has happened. So, which I think adds a lot to it, because this is different.
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think again, it's a team that has a tradition, but I think it's a kind of a rejuvenated team that's going to want to win this game no matter who's out there. Like, they're going to be playing this hard.
Yeah, to that, let's go back to September when they beat Texas. Finally got a chance to play Texas.
They took Alabama down. They made Alabama sweat toward the end of that game. So
no question. Interesting.
Good chance for Penn State to actually kind of do their recovery. This is a big thing for next year, but I think if you're a fan and a team, you want to end this up the right way.
No question, and
look the right way.
Exactly, and not only that, this would be a really good win, and it would be their second SEC win of the season. So, hey, Frank, thank you so much. Can't wait to see you down the road. We'll talk again soon.
All right, sounds great.